Brahman and Iswara. In a sense, Brahman is the ultimate cause of the universe, since, by the action of Maya, the world appearance is superimposed upon Brahman. Brahman is the cause, Maya the effect. Yet Brahman cannot be said to have transformed itself into the world or to have created it, since absolute reality is, by definition, incapable of temporal action or change. Another word, iswara, must therefore be employed to describe the creative principle. Iswara is Brahman united with Maya, the combination of Brahman and its power which creates, preserves, and dissolves the universe in an endless and beginningless process. Iswara is God personified, God with attributes. According to the Sankhya system of philosophy, the universe is an evolution of prakriti, undifferentiated matter, composed of three forces called the gunas. Creation is a disturbance in the balance of these forces. The gunas begin to enter an enormous variety of combinations, somewhat as in the Western theory of atomic structure, and these combinations are individual elements, objects, and creatures. This concept of prakriti corresponds more or less to Shankara's concept of Maya, but with this important difference. Prakriti is said to be other than and dependent of Purusha, the absolute reality, while Maya is said to have no absolute reality but to be dependent on Brahman. Therefore, it is Iswara, rather than Prakriti, who can be described as the ultimate cause of the universe. Are there then two gods, one the impersonal Brahman, the other the personal Iswara? No, for Brahman only appears as Iswara when viewed by the relative ignorance of Maya. Iswara has the same degree of reality as Maya has. God, the person, is not the ultimate nature of Brahman. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, personal God is the reading of the impersonal by the human mind. Sri Ramakrishna, who lived continually in the consciousness of the absolute Brahman, used the following illustration. Brahman may be compared to an infinite ocean without beginning or end. Just as, though intense cold, some portions of the ocean freeze into ice and the formless water appears to have form, so, through the intense love of the devotee, Brahman appears to take on form and personality. But the form melts away again as the sun of knowledge rises. Then the universe also disappears, and there is seen to be nothing but Brahman, the infinite. Although Iswara is, in a sense, a person, we must beware of regarding him as similar to or identical with the jiva, the individual human soul. Iswara, like the jiva, is Brahman united with Maya, but with this fundamental difference. Iswara is the ruler and controller of Maya. The jiva is Maya's servant and plaything. We can therefore say without paradox that we are, at the same time, God and the servants of God. In our absolute nature, we are one with Brahman. In our relative nature, we are other than the Iswara and subject to him. Devotion to the Iswara, the personal God, may lead a man very far along the path of spirituality. It may make him into a saint. But this is not the ultimate knowledge. To be completely enlightened is to go beyond Iswara, to know the impersonal reality behind the personal divine appearance. We can become Brahman, since Brahman is present in us always. But we can never become Iswara, because Iswara is above and distinct from our human personality. It follows, therefore, that we can never become rulers of the universe, for that is Iswara's function. The desire to usurp the function of Iswara is the ultimate madness of ego. It is symbolized in Christian literature by the legend of the fall of Lucifer. Vyasa, the author of the Brahma Sutras, makes the same point when he says that no one will acquire the power of creating, ruling, or dissolving the universe, since that power belongs to Iswara alone. And Shankara in his commentary discusses the problem as follows. If a man, by worshipping the qualified Brahman, Iswara, achieves knowledge of the supreme ruler while still preserving his individual consciousness, is his power limited or unlimited? When this question arises, some will argue that his power is unlimited, and they will quote the scriptural text referring to those who achieve knowledge of Iswara. They attain their own kingdom. To them all the gods offer worship. Their desires are fulfilled in all the worlds, but Vyasa answers this question when he adds, without the power of ruling the universe, all the other powers of Iswara can be acquired by the liberated, but that power belongs to Iswara alone. How do we know this? Because he is the subject of the scriptural text concerning creation. These texts do not refer to the liberated souls in any connection whatsoever. That is why he is called the ever-perfect. The scriptures also say that the powers of the liberated are acquired by worshipping and searching after God. Therefore they have no place in the ruling of the universe. Again, because these liberated souls still preserve their individual consciousness, it is possible that their wills may differ, and that, while one desires creation, another may desire destruction. The only way to avoid this conflict is to make all wills subordinate to some one will. Therefore, we must conclude that the wills of the liberated are dependent on the will of the supreme ruler. If there is only one consciousness, one Brahman, who is the seer and who is the seen? Who sees Brahman as iswara and who is the jiva? Are they different or one? As long as man is within the limitations of Maya, the one is seen as many. Ignorance can do no better than to worship appearance, and iswara is the ruler of all appearances, the highest idea which the human mind can grasp and the human heart can love. The human mind can never grasp the absolute reality. It can only infer its presence and worship its projected image. In the process of this worship, the mind becomes purified, the ego idea thins away like mist, superimposition ceases, iswara and world appearance both vanish in the blaze of transcendental consciousness when there is no seer, no seen, nothing but Brahman, the single, all-embracing, timeless fact. The problem of evil. Every religion or system of philosophy has to deal with the problem of evil, and unfortunately it is a problem which is usually explained away rather than explained. Why, it is asked, does God permit evil when he himself is all goodness? One of two answers is usually given to this question by Western religious thought. Sometimes we are told that evil is educational and penal. God punishes us for our sins by visiting us with war, famine, earthquake, disaster, and disease. He employs temptation, either directly or through the agency of the devil, to test and strengthen the virtue of the good. This is the answer given by the Old Testament. It repels many people today and has become unfashionable, although, as we shall see in a moment, it contains a certain degree of truth, according to the philosophy of Vedanta. The other answer, now more generally accepted, is that evil does not exist at all. If we view life sub specie aeternitatis, we shall know that evil has no reality, that it is simply a misreading of good. Vedanta philosophy disagrees with both these answers, with the second even more radically than with the first. How, it asks, can evil be changed into good merely by viewing it in a special manner? Pain and misfortune may be borne more easily if we fix our minds upon God, but they are very real experiences nevertheless, even though their duration is limited. Vedanta agrees that evil, in the absolute sense, is unreal, but it reminds us that, from this standpoint, good is unreal also. The absolute reality is beyond good and evil, pleasure and pain, success and disaster. Both good and evil are aspects of Maya. As long as Maya exists, they exist. Within Maya, they are real enough. The question, why does God permit evil, is in fact most misleadingly phrased. It is as absurd as if one were to ask, why does God permit good? Nobody today would ask why rain permitted a catastrophic flood. Nobody would blame or praise fire because it burns one man's house and cooks another man's dinner. Nor can it be properly said that Brahman is good in any personal sense of the word. Brahman is not good in the sense that Christ was good, for Christ's goodness was within Maya. His life expressed the light of reality reflected upon the relative world. The reality itself is beyond all phenomena, even the noblest. It is beyond purity, beauty, happiness, glory, or success. It can be described as good only if we mean that absolute consciousness is absolute knowledge, and that absolute knowledge is absolute joy. But perhaps the question does not refer to Brahman at all. Perhaps, in this connection, God means Iswara, the ruler of Maya. If this is granted, can Vedanta philosophy agree with the Old Testament that God is a lawgiver, a stern and somewhat unpredictable father, whose ways are not ours, whose punishments and rewards often seem unmerited, who permits us to fall into temptation? The answer is yes and no. The Vedanta doctrine of karma is a doctrine of absolute, automatic justice. The circumstances of our lives, our pains and our pleasures, are all the result of our past actions in this and countless previous existences, from a beginningless time. Viewed from a relative standpoint, Maya is quite pitiless. We get exactly what we learn, no more, no less. If we cry out against some apparent injustice, it is only because the act that brought it upon us is buried deep in the past, out of reach of our memory. To be born a beggar, a king, an athlete, or a helpless cripple is simply the composite consequences of the deeds of other lives. We have no one to thank but ourselves. It is no use trying to bargain with Iswara, or propitiate him, or hold him responsible for our troubles. It is no use inventing a devil as an alibi for our weakness. Maya is what we make of it, and iswara simply represents that stern and solemn fact. Viewed from a relative standpoint, this world of appearance is a bleak place, and as such it often drives us to despair. The seers, with their larger knowledge, tells us otherwise. Once we become conscious, even dimly, of the Atman, the reality within us, the world takes on a very different aspect. It is no longer a court of justice, but a kind of gymnasium. Good and evil, pain and pleasure still exist, but they seem more like the ropes and vaulting horses and parallel bars which can be used to make our bodies strong. Maya is no longer an endlessly revolving wheel of pain and pleasure, but a ladder which can be climbed to consciousness of the reality. From this standpoint, fortune and misfortune are both mercies, that is to say, opportunities. Every experience offers us the chance of making a constructive reaction to it, a reaction which helps to break some chain of our bondage to Maya and bring us that much nearer to spiritual freedom. Shankara therefore distinguishes between two kinds of Maya, avidya, evil or ignorance, and vidya, good. Avidya is that which causes us to move further away from the real self, and veils our knowledge of the truth. Vidya is that which enables us to come nearer to the real self by removing the veil of ignorance. Both vidya and avidya are transcended when we pass beyond Maya into consciousness of the absolute reality. It has been said already that the principle of Maya is the superimposition of the ego idea upon the Atman, the real self. The ego idea represents a false claim to individuality, to being different from our neighbors. It follows, therefore, that any act which contradicts this claim will bring us one step back toward right knowledge, to consciousness of the inner reality. If we recognize our brotherhood with our fellow men, if we try to deal honestly, truthfully, charitably with them, if, politically and economically, we work for equal rights, equal justice, and the abolition of barriers of race and class and creed, then we are in fact giving the lie to the ego idea and moving toward awareness of the universal, non-individual existence. All such actions and motives belong to what is known as ethical goodness, just as all selfish motives and actions belong to ethical evil. In this sense, and in this sense only, goodness may be said to be more real or more valid than evil, since evil actions and thoughts involve us more deeply in Maya, while good thoughts and actions lead us beyond Maya to consciousness of the reality. The words sin and virtue are somewhat alien to the spirit of Vedanta philosophy, because they necessarily foster a sense of possessiveness with regard to thought and action. If we say, I am good or I am bad, we are only talking the language of Maya. I am Brahman is the only true statement any of us can make. Saint François de Sales wrote that even our repentance must be peaceful, meaning that exaggerated remorse, just as much as excessive self-congratulation, simply binds us more firmly to the ego idea, the lie of Maya. We must never forget that ethical conduct is a means, not an end in itself. Knowledge of the impersonal reality is the only valid knowledge. Apart from that, our deepest wisdom is black ignorance, and our strictest righteousness is all in vain.